it's fair to say that actors can only shoulder so much of the blame for a bad movie, when they start to rack up the streak of duds, it becomes increasingly easy to blame them for their own failures. While there are certainly actors who just got unlucky or need to get a better agent, it's clear to see that in many cases they simply have lost the passion for the craft and are keen to phone things in for a quick paycheck when possible. That's certainly the truth for these 10 actors, all of whom have great successes to their names and in some cases Academy Awards. And yet at some point they clearly just stopped giving a damn about chasing projects that are worthy of their talent. Furthermore, it's possible to comb through these actors' filmographies and pinpoint the exact moment that things went wrong. The precise moment where they threw their hands up in the air and checked quality control at the door. That's not to say that these actors aren't beyond a comeback, but don't get your hopes up. I am Kirsten from What Culture, and these are the 10 exact moments that actors stopped trying. Number 10, the Mad Hatter gets madder and more annoying. Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp's acting career has been an absolute rollercoaster ride of hits and flops. Though in recent years it's clear that the Oscar-nominated actor is clearly chasing an easy paycheck over anything else. Depp's last worthwhile performance was his chilling turn as Whitey Bulger in 2015's Black Mass. After that, he seems to have mailed in everything else from at least a couple of continents away. The clear apex of Depp's downturn was in Alice's Through the Looking Glass in 2016, where he reprised his role for Mad Hatter, but lacked any enthusiasm to do anything entertaining with him. Depp's performance was largely panned by critics, resulting in him receiving Razzie nominations for Worst Supporting Actor and Worst Screen Combo. If Depp's eccentric hopped-up Hatter in the original version wasn't already a divisive prospect, turning him into a deathly ill mope in the sequel amped up the irritation and stripped away most of the fun. Since then, Depp has submitted himself to soulless blockbusters such as Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, and Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald, as well as some snoozily mediocre art house films such as Waiting for the Barbarians and The Professor. As much as we'd like to see Depp on his daring go-for-broke form, it seems that he's content to phone it in. Number 9, if all else fails, underwear. Cameron Diaz. By the early 2000s, Cameron Diaz had seemed to have graduated from her early eye candy roles, having worked with the esteemed likes of Danny Boyle, Spike Jonze, Oliver Stone and Cameron Crowe, and in 2002 even Martin Scorsese. But almost immediately after appearing in Scorsese's Gangs of New York, which is one of her most prestigious roles to date, Diaz abandoned any remaining desire to work with classier chores and instead started shamelessly slumming it in low-effort genre films. The cynical epitome of this was in 2008's What Happens in Vegas, a head-smackingly convoluted rom-com in which herself and Ashton Kutcher play two strangers, who, after drunkenly getting married and then winning a casino jackpot, have to stay together for 6 months in order to split the winnings. It's a movie which comfortably adheres to every tired genre trope, most of all the inevitable gratuitous underwear scene in which Diaz needlessly struts her stuff for the audience. It's the point in which Diaz seemingly forgot her rising cred with actual artists and instead decided to cash in solely on her looks. Though Diaz has since retired from acting, it was clear near the end that she had lost the passion for the craft and was simply just cashing in those fat paycheck roles, which she evidently hoovered up in abundance and landed herself with a Worst Actress Razzie in the process. Fingers crossed she might return in the future and deliver us something truly unexpected, because she really is worth so much more than this trashy genre slop. Number 8, straight-to-video switcheroo, Bruce Willis. There aren't many career downturns more depressing than that of Bruce Willis. The once venerable, dependable action star seems to have sheltered himself into the straight-to-video action thriller dungeon for the better part of the last decade, with his last truly effortful performance in Rian Johnson's 2012 sci-fi thriller Looper. Willis's low-effort lack of commitment is best embodied in his follow-up to Looper in 2012's straight-to-video thriller Fire with Fire. Rocking a cool 7% on the tomato meter, the film was largely marketed on Willis's presence, even though his screen time only seems to amount to 20 of the 97 minutes. It's painfully clear that the film, which is a hilariously cliched revenge thriller, was shaped around the amount of days that they could hire Willis for. And despite his top billing, the bulk of the load is carried by his co-star, Josh Duhamel. This is of course a trick which Willis's STV brethren, Steven Seagal and Nicolas Cage, have exploited in recent years. It largely speaks to actors who know that their box office value is drying up and want to milk every last penny out of their fading brand. Sadly, Willis hasn't starred in a single critically acclaimed movie since, but rather a bunch of instantly forgotten no-effort thrillers. Hell, his recent film Reprisal was shot in a way to feature as little of his face as possible, allowing his stand-in to actually shoot an outrageously large amount of his scenes. Genuinely, this is really sad to see. Number 7, modern day gay panic, Will Ferrell. Despite being one of the most successful and famous comedians on the planet, Will Ferrell hasn't actually appeared in an acclaimed role since Anchorman 2: The Legend Continues. And the movie which confirmed that Ferrell had basically written off putting in any effort into his films was the 2015 comedy Get Hard. Ferrell stars as James King, a hedge fund manager who is sent to jail for embezzlement. He then enlists the help of car wash attendant Darnell to help prepare him for life in prison. It'd be one thing if Get Hard was a familiar odd couple comedy and actually funny, but instead it's emblematic of everything that is wrong with studio comedies nowadays. And of course, it was a solid box office hit regardless. The film's cringe-inducing assault of unfunny, tasteless comedy culminates in a scene where Darnell takes James to a gay cruising spot in order for him to learn how to perform oral sex. The gay panic couldn't feel any more like Ferrell trying to reclaim the crude glory of his earlier Hollywood days. Yet in our more enlightened 2015, it landed with a total thud. Sadly, this isn't a one-off, and every studio comedy that Ferrell's appeared in since, such as the Daddy's Home films, The House, Holmes and Watson, have all been complete duds. Number 6, The Island of Dr. Moreau, Marlon Brando. Though Marlon Brando is unquestionably one of the greatest actors of all time, he had clearly burned out creatively by the 1980s. Though Brando did receive strong acclaim with his comeback as a Don Corleone caricature in his 1990 comedy The Formula, it didn't take long for Brando's famous laziness to emerge, and with his increased weight and age, it was stronger than ever before. After sleepwalking his way through a mumblesome performance in 1994's Don Juan de Marco, Brando cemented his irreversible career nosedive with his supporting role in the infamously troubled project The Island of Dr. Moreau. It's evident from Brando's Razzie-winning performance that his passion for acting was long gone, ultimately resorting to having his lines fed to him through an earpiece. In Brando's defense, his daughter Cheyenne had committed suicide early on in the film's production, so it is understandable why he might not have been entirely focused. Nevertheless, between this and his disappointingly comatose performance in 2001's crime thriller The Score, it was clear that he had nothing left in the tank by this point. Brando never worked on another movie after The Score and died 3 years later in 2004. His legacy remains inestimable, yet his love for acting clearly evaporated years before his career wrapped up. Number 5, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. Hayden Christensen. Though the Star Wars prequels was probably the thing that gave Hayden Christensen his fame and riches, they were also possibly the thing that damaged his career as a serious actor. While it's easy to assume that Christensen is a mediocre actor due to his performances in Revenge of the Sith and Attack of the Clones, his terrific performance in 2003's Shattered Glass demonstrated otherwise. Sadly, Christensen was clearly worn down by the soulless green screen obsessed production of the Star Wars prequels. And by the time of shooting Revenge of the Sith began, he'd given up of giving any plausible humanity to Anakin Skywalker. This is perhaps best typified by the third act delivery of, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. A terrible line, sure, but one acted badly enough to seemingly seal Christensen's on-screen fate forever. In the 15 years since Revenge of the Sith, Christensen hasn't appeared in one single critically acclaimed movie since, but rather an increasingly lousy avalanche of VOD action thrillers starring alongside the likes of fellow inmate Bruce Willis. Though it would be great to see Christensen come back with a beefy, dramatic role totally out of nowhere, it seems like no one is willing to roll the dice with him. Number 4, because I said so. Diane Keaton. Even if she never appears in another great movie, there is no denying the amount of great performances that Diane Keaton has given us over the decades. But since the turn of the century, Keaton has desperately very little worthwhile to offer her fans, appearing in only a sporadic number of projects and none of which have made use of Keaton's dramatic or comedic chops. However, the straw that broke the camel's back was 2007's rom-com Because I Said So, starring Keaton as an infuriatingly overbearing mother trying to find a partner for her youngest daughter, played by Mandy Moore. Making Diane Keaton unlikable is an extremely challenging task, but this movie pulls it off with an enthusiastic aplomb. It's a portrayal that's in the very least an annoying and insulting stereotype of a bored middle-aged woman. Either way, every film that Keaton has been in since has been cut from a similar mold. Critically planned, low-effort, frothy dramedy nonsense. What a waste. Number 3, Flirty Harry, Adrien Brody. Adrien Brody is a terrific actor and remains one of the best actor Oscar winners in history, scooping the award for The Pianist at just 29 years of age. Yet for the majority of the last decade, his career has mostly been in the toilet. Aside from a small supporting role in Wes Anderson's Grand Budapest Hotel, Brody's last notable performance was as Salvador Dali in Woody Allen's Midnight in Paris in 2011. Otherwise, he's spent close to a decade appearing in a bunch of forgettable, mediocre VOD thrillers and dramas. But the movie that truly showed Brody's most passionate years were behind him? 2013 sketch comedy movie Inappropriate, which sees Brody appear as Flirty Harry in a parody of the Dirty Harry franchise, culminating in the horrendous one-liner, "Go ahead, make me gay." It's a skit so embarrassingly bad that Brody's fans were speculating as to whether or not he'd actually lost a bet. But aside from his appearance in the Grand Budapest Hotel, which let's be honest was hardly a stretch for him, he's been appearing in VOD thrillers. Sometimes even with fellow slummers Hayden Christensen in American Heist and Bruce Willis in Airstrike. It hurts just how much talent is being squandered here, and although Brody does have a role in Wes Anderson's new The French Dispatch, it's unclear to be seen as to how much of a role he actually has. Number 2, old dog, old tricks. John Travolta. John Travolta is one of the very few actors who can rival Bruce Willis's shamelessness when a career downturn is concerned. Though Travolta's acting cred was rejuvenated by the success of Pulp Fiction, it seemed like by the 2000s he was on another ferocious losing streak, appearing in 13 consecutively panned films from 1999 to 2007. Another comeback seemed to be on the horizon after he appeared in the acclaimed films Bolt and Hairspray. But the year after that, Travolta was back to taking any low-effort paycheck that he could get his hands on. Impressively, Travolta is on another run of 13 panned movies in a row, one of them being the atrocious sequel to Old Dogs. The stunningly unfunny film shows the exact moment where Travolta shed any remaining dignity and instead just became a performing monkey. That is the scene where he accidentally takes the wrong medication and his face twitches and morphs as a result. It's haunting and horrifying in all the wrong ways, and was actually the last film that Travolta was in to actually turn a profit. Yikes. Travolta did admittedly receive awards attention for his role as O.J. Simpson's lawyer Robert Shapiro in 2016's The People vs. O.J. Simpson American Crime Story. The performance was decidedly more polarizing among critics and fans alike. Number 1, bad casting, worse accent. Meg Ryan. Meg Ryan was one of the most bankable actresses in the 1990s, starring in a string of acclaimed and successful movies such as Sleepless in Seattle, When a Man Loves a Woman, Courage Under Fire, City of Angels, and You've Got Mail. But by the year 2000, Meg Ryan had slammed hard into a critical and commercial wall. Though she did attempt to reinvent herself in unexpected performances such as lurid thrillers In the Cut and sports biopic Against the Ropes. The former received a brutal F cinema score, and the latter being a colossal box office bomb. Though on paper, having Meg Ryan appear as legendary boxer Jackie Callan is an intriguing hook, neither the film script or Ryan's performance was engaging or believable, and it was distressingly clear that she was miscast in a role that she was incredibly unqualified to play. Ryan's laughable attempt at a Detroit accent was especially singled out by critics, making it clear that she just didn't do her homework. Sadly, she hasn't appeared in any well-received films in the 16 years since, and has actually only appeared in one film in the last decade. And there we go, there is the list of actors who unfortunately have just stopped trying. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, click that subscribe button. I have been Kirsten Rea. You can find me at Kirsten Rea with 2 A's on Instagram and Twitter. But for now, I will bid thee farewell, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.